since day one. I believe we put together a game plan to be able to get our hand raised, and I believe I can match him strike for strike. I believe I've got more power. I think I'm more of a pressure fighter. So he's already said that he's going to be the matador. So he expects the pressure, and you can expect the pressure. You can expect the speed. You can expect the power. I think it's just a little bit different when you actually get in there and have to negotiate and navigate the exchanges with a guy who has an indomitable will and is I believe, faster and more powerful than him.
Then finally, unrelated to your fight, Frank, this is probably Frank Edgar's last fight in his MMA career. He was a former champion of this division. Do you have any memories of Frank Edgar as a fan growing up?
Yeah, well, I mean, first of all, Frankie's a friend of mine. I've gone out to Toms River, New Jersey, and trained with him for a couple weeks for a couple different fights. The way that he lived his life, the way that he fought, the way that he competed, the dude is a living legend. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer. Yeah, man, those, as I came into the sport, obviously Frankie being a wrestler, a Division I wrestler, me being a Division I wrestler, he was one of those guys that I thought and said, okay, I'm going to follow what that guy's doing, you know. In his fights with Gray Maynard, in all of his fights, every single time he's been counted out, he's somehow found a way to win in so many different ways. And he was a champion for such a long time. I think he was one of the best champions that we had, and he will for sure be a Hall of Famer. And I'm actually extremely fortunate and feel extremely blessed to be on this card. If this is his farewell fight.
Mike, how would you describe your relationship with Dustin at the moment? Obviously, you had the interaction cage side at one time, but then you had the split screen sort of interview, and it seemed that he chilled a little bit. How would you describe your relationship at the moment?
I think it's fine. I think you're looking at two guys at the top of their game who live with the conviction that they want to be the best guy on the planet at 155. We're two guys climbing the same mountain, trying to get to the top. You know, we've. I think the fact that our relationship started off so cordial, there was only one way for it to go, and that was down. You know, he said some things, I said some things, and we both said, maybe I don't like the guy as much as I thought I did. By the way, looks like we might be matched up in the next X amount of months or X amount of fights. So it's kind of just turned into a competition, and that's what you want here. You want two guys at the top of their game, two guys that see only victory, and two guys that see a guy standing in their way. Dustin Poirier's in my way of what I want for myself and my family, and I'm standing in his way for what he wants and for himself and his family.
Dustin's a guy who wears his emotions on his sleeve, right? And I think probably by Saturday night he will get into a space where he doesn't love you as a person necessarily. I'm curious for you, just as a person, what do you look at him? Is there something like that for you? Do you sort of think like, I'm going to shut this guy up on a personal level?
No, absolutely not. I've been very vocal talking about how I've made fights personal in the past, and it just doesn't work out well for me. I don't want to see Dustin Poirier in front of me. I want to see a head, which is a target. I want to see two arms and two legs, and I want to know that I have a job that needs to get done. I know the scoring is what's the easiest path to victory, and that's all I want to see. I never want to see a soul, a person, a name. It's just a body, you know. And I've been engaging in hand-to-hand combat since I was 14 years old, and I think I'm pretty good at it. So I'll keep on doing it and get my hand raised on Saturday night.
You mentioned how the guard can sort of pressure you into fighting a certain way, but it's not just the guard. You yourself are pretty much always in exciting fights. So do you ever start feeling like an obligation? I matched up with Poirier, he has exciting fights, I have exciting fights, I have to go out there and fight a certain way to provide what the fans are expecting? Or do you kind of just think, well, my skill set will take care of that itself?
Yeah, no, I love the fans, and I love putting on great performances and great entertaining fights for the fans. But you know, ultimately, I just need to put myself in a position where I need to win, and no matter what, it's exciting. I've never in my entire career had a boring fight, win, lose, or draw. And I don't say that to gloat or impress anybody, but it's just my nature. That's how I wrestled. I wanted to get, as soon as that whistle blew, I wanted to get my hands on my opponent, wanted to put pressure on him, and I felt like I was doing something wrong if I was not pressing the action. So I think it's a very, very good thing. It has put me in some bad positions to fight game, and now you're fighting the best guys in the world here in the UFC. And at some point, when you know you've prepared, when you know you've done everything right, all you can do is go out there and just kind of leave it up to chance. But I'm definitely a veteran now in my fifth fight in the UFC. Things have calmed down a little bit. I'm seeing things more clearly as well. And this is a phenomenal opportunity. I think this puts me in line for the title or another huge fight by knocking off Dustin.
Last one from me, your prediction for the main event.
Prediction for the main event, I think, man, there's so much intrigue surrounding this because Isreal Adesanya has looked so unbeatable in so many different ways, whether it be his strategy or whether it be his dominance, his technique and his skill. But then you look at a guy like Alex Pereira, who's seemingly, a lot of people would say, had half his number because he's up 2-0 against him. But I think Izzy still gets the job done. I think this is a different sport than kickboxing. I do think Pereira has looked dominant thus far, and he is a phenomenal talent. Great shot with a bow. We keep seeing that. So it's really, I think Izzy gets the job done. I do. I think Izzy knows how to win. I think Izzy is a phenomenally skilled fighter. Pereira is a very dangerous fighter, but we've seen how that goes numerous times. Izzy.
Right on the back. You just mentioned that a win could possibly set you up for a title shot. There's also talks of Alex Volkanovski moving up. What's your thoughts about him moving up?
I think if there's a guy out there who deserves to move up, I think it is Alex Volkanovski. Obviously, the selfish part of me says I don't want that to happen. I understand how it makes a ton of sense from a promoter standpoint, from a UFC standpoint. You got the number 1 pound for pound guy in the world versus the number 3 pound for pound guy in the world. But I also think that Islam has proved himself to be our champion. He is our champion, and we have to accept that. And I think he's a phenomenal talent. I also think he needs to have his first title defense against a lightweight. He needs to get through another lightweight before they start talking about super fights. Once again, I don't say that to say that the UFC is making a bad decision or the wrong decision if they make that decision to let Volkanovski move up. But I think when I handle business on Saturday night, I think it'll be undeniable that they're going to want to see good old-fashioned passion in American wrestling versus Dagestani Sambo, Dagestani grappling. That's what I hope we can see.
Speaking of that American wrestling, this is the last question for me. You talk about how good Poirier's boxing is, but when we break down the film, you have a huge gap in the wrestling department. Any chance we see that American wrestling a lot more on Saturday?
There's always a chance. I want to be able to go in there and move freely about the cage. When the octagon door closes, I want to touch gloves and kind of just let it fly. Honestly, I want to let it fly. I think my wrestling is something we haven't seen a lot in the UFC. You see what happens when I do take a shot, pick Justin Gaethje up, make him do a front flip, blast Tony Ferguson across the cage and hold him there. You go back to my previous fights before I came into the UFC. When I take guys down, I can control them and I can dominate them, and they do not do that. So the openings may be there. If they are, you'll see Dustin Poirier get taken down. If not, you'll see a slugfest.
Second row here. Last year at the MSG, you and Justin threw down Fight of the Year. Do you think there's any chance this one goes the distance as well?
Yeah, there's always a chance, but there's never a chance that me stepping into the octagon is not going to be fight of the night. Fight of the night, performance of the night. I'm moving at a 75% clip here. I've had 4 fights in the UFC, 3 bonuses thus far, and I plan on collecting not just my fight paycheck, but a bonus paycheck on Saturday night as well. And there's a chance it goes the distance. Man, Dustin's got a great chin. I've proven against Gaethje that I've got a great chin as well. Some shots you see, some shots you don't see. When you don't see them coming, that's when you fall. But when it comes down to me and Dustin Poirier, I think either way you're in for a treat.
Just right here, you mentioned the new champion, the potential for a title shot with the win here. I'm sure Beneil Dariush might have something to say about that. What would be your case on why maybe you deserve it more than him?
I think Beneil Dariush is on a win streak. The one thing too, strength of schedule. I think you're going to be hard pressed to find a guy who's come into the UFC. And my first 5 fights in the UFC have now been all top 5 opponents. 2-2, but my 2 losses are to the number 2 guy and basically they were both number 2 and number 3 guys. Beneil Dariush is definitely deserving of a title shot, I think, with his streak that he's put on. But I also think he and I going head to head for that title shot. I don't know. obviously selfishly, I think I deserve it more, so, but that's what we all say, so we'll see.
Michael, just on the back of that, you obviously mentioned about the new champion, Islam. How do you see yourself matching up with Islam Makhachev?
Islam is who he said he was, for sure. He is better than a lot of us thought he was. He's better than I gave him credit for. I stand corrected. I don't necessarily think I was speaking out of bounds by saying that we hadn't seen him fight a top 5 guy yet. He beat Bobby Green and then got a title shot after that. So it was like it left a little bit more to be desired to see him go through some guys. I honestly think my wrestling will stop his attacks. I think I can take him down. I think I can match him grappling for grappling, and I think in the striking department, I got more power, I'm faster, and I have better hands. That's me speaking confidently, obviously. Ton of respect for him, but I do think it's the most intriguing matchup in the lightweight division. There's not a better wrestler on the lightweight roster than me. My credentials speak for themselves. Being a Division I All-American is kind of the epitome of wrestling accomplishment. So I think I matched up extremely well. I think I beat him, but that's what we all said. That's what Charles said. That's what I said about Charles. That's what. So hopefully we see that fight early 2023.
Right in front of you. Looping back to Alexander Volkanovski, there's always a question when a fighter moves up about skill and ability and size at a bigger weight class. For you, I guess, how do you think he'll fare at 155 pounds?
I think Volkanovski, of all the guys who would move up, a lot of times it's a guy who's at a weight class and then they move up because they're in their natural weight and they decide to give up weight. You got to remember, Volkanovski was 210 when he was playing rugby, so he carried that power down, he carried that size down, even though his actual fighting weight is 145. So I think he'll fare well. That's part of the reason why I'm like, I kind of want to see that match. I kind of want to see him come up. But me selfishly, for my career, obviously, I think number one, I think it just makes sense, the normal course of action, that Islam would defend the belt against a lightweight before we start talking about super fights. Once again, I'm not the promoter. I came here to sign contracts and say yes to every opportunity, and we'll see how it shakes out. I think Volkanovski would be fit fine in that fight.
Michael, back here, you've called out Conor McGregor before this year. Do you believe that he's going to come back to the octagon at this point?
I do, and I believe his first fight back will be me. Makes a ton of sense. I think I've made myself not just one of the most exciting guys in the UFC, but probably the most exciting guy in the lightweight division. There's a ton of talk about it. I can't go a day without people tagging and posting and talking about me fighting Conor if and when he does come back. And I do love the idea of fighting him at his biggest, at his baddest, and at his most dangerous at 170. He looks big right now. I'd love to fight him at 170. I'd love to not. Maybe we would do staggering pay-per-view numbers, and I think he knows that I'm the type of opponent that he wants to come back and fight.
Would you just stick around at 170 at that point? I mean, you beat Conor, they would probably be talking about a title up there as well.
I definitely have thrown around the idea. Making 155 is not easy for me, but I came into the UFC, signed a contract saying that I was a lightweight. 31 fights, hundreds of wrestling matches. I've never once been professional. There's definitely some fights that I would love to take at 170, but I don't think I'm a natural 170 pounder than anything.
Are you at all disappointed that your fight isn't a 5-rounder this Saturday night?
Absolutely not. I think it doesn't make sense for the UFC to put 3 5-round fights on the card, obviously. And then also, I would venture to say that even though the traditional wisdom of more is better doesn't always stand true in every scenario, I would venture to say guys that can go out there, keep their foot on the gas pedal for 15 minutes is a more exciting fight than guys that might need to pace themselves over 25 minutes. Me and Dustin Poirier are nonstop action. You're going to see a lot more exchanges, a lot more transitions, a lot more punches, a lot more action in a 15-minute fight than you would a 5-round fight. And that's what we're doing on Saturday night.
Hey Mike, how do you, over here, how do you stay disciplined under the magnitude of MSG, the lights, the cameras, or is it just, like you said, you want to go in there and flow? So do you just trust in the work that you did in the fight camp, and, you know, once you're walking out, it's just a release and you're just letting everything flow?
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit of both. Honestly, yeah, never to downplay Madison Square Garden, but you try to, I fought now in a lot of different arenas, wrestled in a lot of different arenas before fighting, and you know, you really just try to keep the main thing, whether you're walking out to an octagon in the middle of Madison Square Garden or you're walking out to an octagon anywhere around the world. You, just focus on your performance, focus on your composure, focus on your breath, your heart rate, your mindset, your mentality, and just remember how hard that you worked. And hopefully that works out, you know, for you to be able to string together a great performance and stay in that flow state. But also, if I got to dig deep and turn into the Michael Chandler that you guys saw a year ago here at Madison Square Garden, I think that guy breaks Dustin Poirier as well. So, you know, the Justin Gaethje fight, yes, it was ill-advised the way I fought, but I also knew the guy that I was fighting, and I was fighting the spirit of the man, not the physical body of the man. I was trying to get into his head and have him look across the octagon and say, holy cow, I have met my equal. I think Dustin Poirier has seen that fight. He's watched that fight. I'm sure he's seen some holes in my in my repertoire, if you will. But I'm gonna be a different guy on Saturday night.
How many backflips can we expect this time?
At least 5. No, I mean, it depends. It depends on how the fight goes. Those backflips just kind of come out, and the crowd wanted more, so I had to keep on giving them more. I figured 4 in the last fight was good enough, and better stop it there. But we're gonna be doing a couple backflips on Saturday night.
Thank you.
Okay, we have time for one last question. Right here, please. After your career now, professional career spanning 13 years, at this point in your career, after all the wars, all the tough fights you've been through, how do you maintain the level of motivation you've been able to do at, you know, this far into your career?
I was talking to Chris about this earlier. I'm extremely fortunate because I actually have gotten 2 careers. I truly believe I've gotten 2 careers. I got the career where I can promise you that I worked harder than every single other guy who has sat up here in all these different events. I lived a championship lifestyle. I did every single thing right, and I can promise you that because I know that because I've trained on the West Coast, East Coast, around the world, been around these people. But I never got the credit for it because I was outside of this organization. Now I get a new lease on life, a second career coming into the biggest organization in the world, and finally I get to put my heart and my hard work and my determination and discipline on the biggest stage possible. So, truthfully, 2 years ago, whenever I signed with the UFC, I became a new man, and I honestly had a new level of motivation. Adopting my second son adds a lot of motivation. I'm now a father who has to feed 2 young men now. I got the love and support of an amazing wife. So. This is just, man, I'm living the dream. Truly, I'm living the dream, and I can't put into words how amazing it is. So it's easy for me. I'm so grateful to have 2 capable arms and 2 capable legs to be able to sit here and you guys actually care what I'm talking about. The people on the other ends of these cameras care what I'm talking about, and this is a position that so many people would love to be in. So for me to sacrifice the gifts that I've been given is just downright blasphemy, and it's just downright wrong. So I wake up every single morning excited about what I get to do, and I'm going to keep on doing it until the wheels fall off, and I still got a lot of tread left on this tire. You're going to see it on Saturday night, and I will be champion by the middle of next year. That's what motivates me, and that's what keeps me going.
Thank you guys.
So they have to be cutting people. Christmas question. They have to be cutting people. That's not. But I hope they just sit on with just bring the main card.
2 fighters in 1 hour. That's gonna take us like 1 hour.
That is the math.
Get locked? Yeah. Oh, is that the old one? Yeah, got a kiss me.
I think we do it live.
like later.
Australian would have been better if they didn't do that.
Keep your fingers crossed it stays.
When do you think I should clip these type of things? Oh, just for time.
Hello. We're just a few days away removed from you attempting to recapture your UFC title, so I'm curious, what are the emotions now leading up to your fight against Carla compared to your previous, your first title fight against Jessica?
那么这周六这场比赛啊，就对阵卡拉再次争夺腰带。那么对这场比赛，现在你的心情和当时你第一次去打腰带的时候相比有什么变化，有什么不同？
我觉得这次很兴奋，也很开心，跟第一次渴望腰带一样。
Yeah, I'm very happy and very excited this time, but I think I want the belt so badly, same as the first time I won the belt. Yeah.
A lot of fans put you or Rose or even sometimes Joanna as the actual best strawweights in MMA. So I'm curious, do you think that Carla is the best strawweight right now in MMA?
所以啊，很多时候外界都觉得你、罗斯，然后乔安娜，你们仨是这个女子草量级最棒的3个选手。那你觉得卡拉的位置，她也是在这个最顶尖的行列吗？现在虽然她是冠军。
我觉得卡拉也是一个非常厉害的一个选手，因为他初代的冠军，时隔8年又拿回冠军，我觉得他是一个非常值得尊重的一个选手。
Yeah, I think Carla is one of the best of our division because she was the inaugural champion of this division and then won the title back after 8 years. So it is a great achievement, and I respect her achievement very much.
Watching her fight, she has this ability to slow the fight down and make her opponents fight out of their game plan. Have you noticed this on tape, and what do you think her past opponents have done wrong in her approach to fighting Carla?
所以啊，就关于这个卡拉的打法，他是喜欢让比赛的节奏慢下来，然后他的对手打不出自己的东西，然后他去发挥自己一些帅招。那你觉得他之前的对手之所以没有赢他，他们是哪些地方做的不足或者不够好？然后那你觉得你能够怎么赢卡拉？
我觉得之前的对手有可能有的时候会掉到他的节奏里面，跟他的陷阱里面，所以我不会掉到他的陷阱里面，我会让他掉到我的陷阱里面。
I think her previous opponents, the mistake they made is they get trapped by Carla, getting her fighting rhythm. So what I'm gonna do Saturday night is I won't be trapped by her. I will set up some trap for her.
Then finally, do you have a prediction for the main event between Isreal and Alex Pereira?
预测一下主赛，阿迪萨亚跟那个佩雷拉，你觉得他们俩谁能赢？
其实我很少去预测比赛，因为在场上就是什么都有可能发生，而且他俩之前也是打战力，也是交过手，然后佩雷拉这次也是在MMA 的8角笼里去比赛，我觉得这是一场肯定非常非常值得人期待跟惊艳的比赛，让我们大家拭目以待。
I never predict a fight because anything can happen any moment in the octagon. So for this fight, I don't know. They fought against each other in kickboxing matches, and now this time is the first time Pereira entered the octagon to face against Isreal. So who knows what happens? So I'm looking forward this fight very much as you guys. So let's just expect what happened this Saturday.
Just over here. You know, when you think back to that moment when you first captured the title in China, how did that feel? And how much will it mean to you to be able to bring the title back to China again?
所以现在再回顾一下，当年就是第一次拿腰带是在中国赢了这个腰带，你现在是有什么感想？你觉得那个胜利对你来说意味着什么？那么星期六再次把腰带赢回来，对你来说又意味着什么？
我第一次拿腰带是在中国，然后那个时候很多人因为这场比赛认识了我，认识UFC，然后那个时候我是中国的伟力，然后这次我在纽约拿腰带，我觉得我是世界的伟力。
So the first time I won my belt in China, that make millions of Chinese people know me and know UFC, know MMA. And this time, at that moment, I am the Weili from China. I'm China's Zhang Weili. But this time, is if I can win the belt again in New York City, in the worldwide famous city, I believe Saturday night I am this world's Zhang Weili.
Do you feel the support from the Chinese fans?
那你觉得你现在还能感受到来自中国粉丝的巨大 every single day from
就算在美国也有很多。
even I'm in the U.S. there are a lot of Chinese fans support me.
And what do you think gives you the edge in this fight, and how do you see it playing out on Saturday?
所以那就是这周六对卡拉，你就以一个什么样的方式呈现给大家？
我觉得我的优势是我比较全面，不管是站立、摔跤还是柔术，只要是大家能想到的技术，我觉得都没问题。然后，这次比赛我准备了很多，我觉得随时也有可能会有很惊艳的事情发生。
So I think I am a more well-rounded fighter than her. So no matter that we fight on striking, wrestling, grappling, I have no problem to fight against her. So I prepared a lot for this fight. So be ready. Some spectacular moments will happen in this fight.
There's as far as all the title fights you've had, you're the biggest favorite going into this one, and a lot of people are